Guys, what's going on? I don't have a shirt. It's in the wash and I'm freezing, so I put on this fresh coat, man. But I just want to have a quick chat, quick little tap in. It's out here, UAE, just trying to up some skill sets, some chartering skill sets, and things like this. But anyway, less about me, more about America and what this is kind of about. I see the U.S. right now going through a few interesting kind of transient mentalities and cult-like mentalities, and it's very concerning, right? Because outside looking in, right? Like I no longer live in the U.S. I don't, and will I ever go back? Like for sure, like I'm sure I will, but seeing the mentalities of how people operate over there, it's very uninviting. It's very unwarm. It's very cold feeling. It's very calloused. It's very like just all that money and military power, and you can't even be a decent person. You know what I mean? And and specifically referencing like the Charlie Kirk assassination, seeing stuff like that, right? And then seeing people's responses of it, right? When they're saying like, "Oh man, that's good, man, fuck that guy," da 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 da. It's like, man, like that's a human being, bro. Like, and he wasn't this like monstrous human being. Like I would get if he was like a rapist or something. I would get if he was like a serial killer, and people are like, "Yo, man, good." But I personally, I'm still of the school of thought of like, man, even if you have to like like I'll give an example, right? Like if someone breaks into your property and they mean violence towards you and your family, and in USA it's legal to have firearms, and let's say you shoot them, right? Because you were forced to, like you had no other choice. You're like, "Hey man, please leave my property. Hey, what are you doing here? Why are you coming towards me and my family? Hey man, I got a gun. I don't want to use it. I don't want to use like." And then still last minute you would unfortunately have to use it. It's like that's still an unfortunate event, right? Like you would still at least be like, man, like that sucks that I had to use that, right? Or at least like most non-psychopathic people would probably kind of fall in line with that, right? And I find it very just totally a lie that the left is like this like endearing, accepting, and empathetic group of people when like they clearly are not. Like if someone's dying and like your natural prerogative is like to celebrate that or something, you're clearly not what you're representing your party to be. Like you're clearly much more monstrous than you're willing to admit. And you can lie about it, like that's cool, that's cute. You pretend it's not true, but it's very evident. So, and mind you, guys, I'm not even someone who's voted, right? Like I've never even voted. So, the left's natural thing is to be like, man, like, whoa, you must be like this racist conservative, da 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 da. Hey, brother, man, UAE, it's actually white people are the least, and I look more Arabic than I do Caucasian, or maybe I don't, but so I've been told. I look very very much more Middle Eastern sometimes, but people out here are very you get all different walks of life, colored, black, white, this, Indian, you get everything. In fact, it's the least amount of white people, and yet this is one of the most successful countries in the world per capita. So clearly, there's an out for like race, right? Like if your whole thing in the U.S. is like, man, well, it's like, people are so racist, da 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 da, then leave. Like there's so many other places in the world where you can go be financially abundant, and it doesn't have to be in the United States or other areas in the U.S., right? So the fact that the left is still like purporting that there are these ginormous victims, and their prerogative is like when a human being is dying to celebrate. Like I'm even of the school of thought, like even if you kill Hitler, like to be like, man, like you might have to do it, right? Because it's like, historically, if you could, like, would you is like almost what I'm projecting onto the viewers here. And it's like you might, you might be like, man, I like maybe I would, but it would still be like a sad event. Like it's still traumatic, like for anybody, even if you're completely justified, even if like, it's the most, yeah, like that's one of the most probably um, obvious examples where objectively, I would argue majority of people would probably take that if they could to go back in time and stop someone as evil as Hitler to do what he was doing. So, but what I'm making the argument for, the sustenance argument, is like it would still be a traumatic and sad event for you to personally do it or to even witness it. It'd be like, man, like we stopped the thing, but like it sucks that this thing happened still. So I don't want to harp on it too much more. I've only got a few minutes before one of my friends comes over and all these things, but I just wanted to capture just kind of an idea that, man, like for the West to be this like, especially the left to be this like loving, like you guys ain't love, man. Like that ain't love. That ain't like. Yeah, I used to be much more like politically neutral, but 100% like I don't want left friends. I don't want like people like that. I don't want anybody because it's just not it, man. Like from what I could tell, it's like you guys have driven up taxes, you've driven up the cost of living for the average human being. Healthcare is unaffordable by most. In fact, the average American's burn rate, right? like Chipotle is more expensive. All basic utilities are more expensive. All these things of just basic living. Basic living has become unattainable for the average American. And I legitimately mean this. Like the cheapest apartment you can rent in America, like reasonable, right? You're gonna be 15 to $2,000. $1,500 to $2,000. But let's call it 1,500 on the low end. The cheapest healthcare plan that you could probably get in America is going to be like $700 a month. So your monthly burn rate is now $2,200 before utilities, before taxes, before emergency fund, before food, before gas, before phone bill, $100 a month there. Like by the time you add all these things up, you're in the whole hard cost just to exist in America. You're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 a month for the average person. $4,000 a month. And that's with no emergencies, that's no investing, that's just existing. $4,000 a month. Now, if you extrapolate that a little bit, right, $4,000 a month, you could do quick math. That's $48,000 a year. The average income in the U.S. is like what, $52,000 a year. So the average person, and that's 52 pre-tax. Post-tax, you're going to be in the 40s or maybe high 30s. So the average American person is at a negative deficit burn rate, right? And I've been saying this for years, right? Because I got a degree in economics, so like we studied correlation of like behaviors and politics and how it can affect economic decisions and the affordability of things. And people don't understand these things. Like I would tell exes all the time, like feminism is ruining America, right? From an economic standpoint. And people are like, why? Well, if you have 2x the labor of workforce, you've now halved the price of labor. If men and women are now more abundant, if there's more supply of men and women, labor now just became half as valuable, right? So like, and other reasons too. I mean, like feminism, destroys the family unit, which then destroys. First of all, destroys dating, right? Any man who's dated a feminist, I've dated plenty of them. Don't like them. I don't recommend it. I would never recommend it to a single friend of mine. We all know how insufferable of an experience that is dating a feminist. They're argumentative, they're whorish, they're just like terrible skill sets, can't cook, can't clean, like they're just terrible. Like the overwhelming 90% of them are just insufferable human beings. So dating, you can't date them. You don't want to marry them, right? So you're ruining marriage, which then does what? Ruins families, which then does what? Ruins households because kids grow up without a father and a mother, and then that does what? Statistically, a kid without a father is and a mother too. I know a lot of people say it's fatherless homes, but it's really both. You need both. You need both a mother and a father, right? A kid without a father and a mother is going to go on to do terrible things in life, statistically. Like all their probabilities of incarceration, disease, mortality, like all the bad things of being stupider, being less provided for, more likely to go to jail, more likely to be unruly, all these things, right? It's all statistical evidence. So in essence of what you're saying is you're making a less effective, less prosperous person, which does what? If everybody's families does this in society, everybody's mom and dad breaks up and divorces, and everybody's, no one wants to get married nowadays in the U.S. because why would you as a man? Like, you have zero reason to do it. Your wife's a hoe. Like, she brags about it and then divorces you and takes all your stuff. So like, sorry, I gotta check my phone here, making sure I'm okay on time here. But long story short, you're breaking all these families down. Kids and people as a whole become less effective, and they inevitably grow to be the economic working class, which is now less effective than the previous generation working class, which is exactly what the United States is experiencing. I saw in college, I looked around at all my peers and I was like, these guys are fucking bums. Like, and I know that's rude to say, but it's truthful. I was looking around because they were making fun of me for waking up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., working my butt off and wanting to be something of myself. And I find that appalling. I find that appalling. Because it's like all I ever wanted was to be something, right? Better than I was, effective to society, valuable in some regard, right? And like maybe I was a bit, egotistical. Maybe I was a bit young and youthful and stupid, fair. But like at least I was pushing myself to be the best I could be. A lot of peers that I know, who are now 30 years old, the most they can do is point at like the decade long of drinking and partying that they've accomplished. So literally nothing. And and now that's the working class in America. So, and then here's the thing, it gets even worse because then that's the leadership in America, and then their kids are supposed to compete. Like, so it's been diluted, right? And it's evident, especially nowadays with like, now we're seeing the results of these things passing through time. When things are unaffordable, when people are fighting to the point of you can't even have a conversation in America without people killing each other. Or certainly burning bridges and friendships. And I mean, that's been going on for 5-10 years. If you had an opposing political conversation with someone in America, consider your friendship gone. Consider it, consider not getting invited to the barbecue again. Consider not getting invited to, some wedding thing or whatever. Consider you're out. Because someone got their feelings hurt. And in now the average American person and below, so up to the 60th percentile of humans that exist, of the workforce of the United States, cannot even afford to stay neutral. They cannot afford to stay buoyant. And it's not to the fault of their own, right? I'm not here dogging them. I know people like this who all they do is work. So, a message to America, like I know this is a bit of a heady, bit maybe I don't know, not so conversation if you're a lefty, right? But like, if you're a calibrated person coming from other parts of the world, like it just looks nuts. Like it looks insane. It's like you can't even afford basic lifestyle in a first world country. You can't get along with people. You can't build a family. Like, it's exactly why I left America. Why would I stay there? And this is a real wake up call for because I think there's levels of people who are effective, and there's a Pareto distribution of people who impact society, right? Pareto meaning like the upper echelon of people are responsible for a majority of the work or something, right? Like, look at like music catalogs of like the 1500s or like early classical music. Like there's only like 5 composers that like are responsible for like all of classical music, right? You got like Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, and whoever else, right? But like there was thousands of composers, and only like the top 10 were actually any bit impactful for any sort of sustenance. Same thing now. This is the Pareto distribution. Everybody knows about it. Like the majority of the wealth is maintained by the upper echelon of people, right? Like in a classroom, right? Like this is still how it works. Like there's going to be like 1 or 2 students who carry the curve, the grading distribution for majority of the class, right? Like the Pareto distribution is a very well-known phenomenon. It's a weird natural phenomenon that just occurs in the world, right? In many different industries and many different fields, whether it's music, money, finance, grades, academia, whatever it is. But the point I'm trying to get at is like perhaps I fall on the upper echelon of like impacting my society, right? For like a 30-year-old male, like I definitely exist, like knowing all my peers and people I like have been around. Like I've been a COO at 28 years old. Granted, it was a small startup, so I don't know how much validity that carries, but I did land deals with Amazon and Superchain App Accelerator program. I was a very effective sales supervisor at at a roofing company for a small stint of time, but it was very, very, very impactful as soon as I showed up. I was a software engineer at a capillary collection laboratory specializing in blood facilities and blood studying and collection from fingertip and venous withdrawal methods, but finding less invasive ways to scientifically curate corrective blood collection, right? And what else? 300 song catalog, millions of streams, charter company, sold out shows, degree in economics. There's going to be a few bits I'm probably missing, right? But long story short, by the end of my time when I was 30 years old, male in USA, I had jobs for people. I had generated jobs for friends. I had generated many jobs for people and value for other people. Whether you like it or not, whatever, there's literally friends of mine who were like, man, I'm struggling, and I was like, dude, I got you a job. Let's go, like let's go, man. But what I'm trying to now narrate is, okay, so I'm quote unquote one of these like maybe relatively impactful people within my own small neck of the woods of the United States. I now said I'm taking my impact of the Pareto distribution, all that impact and variance and helping people out, helping companies, helping this. Like there's charter companies I worked for and got them hundreds of Google reviews. That's not even a joke. Like people, boats, friends, this thing, like impacting people. I now have taken that and said I'm going to a different country. Those things come with me. And that's what some of these U.S. people who fall on the left side don't understand. I don't have to play by y'all's. I'm not even like I said, I've never voted, but for sure, if I had to vote gun to head, I would definitely be on the Christian side of things for sure. But I'm very God-fearing, and I attribute all the success I've ever obtained to God, 100%. But here's what the left doesn't understand. People are just going to leave. It's exactly what I've done. So why would I want to live in your society when you've chosen violence against your own kind, against your own impactful people? You've made the family nuclear unit basically pretty much unobtainable for the average man, let alone an elite level man or trying to be that, right? So why would I live in your society when I can come here and they value the things that, in fact, it's like, oh man, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, hey man, how many benefits, how many things can we give you, right? Like, so yeah, and if you don't think that's going to impact, because when people start leaving, they start exporting, right? UAE is the number one country that's importing the most millionaires, the most entrepreneurs. So that with entrepreneurs comes jobs, creativity, innovation, all these things. So I got to check my phone one more time. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. I think that's probably enough chatting. But yeah, just a little food for thought, because I saw this 5-6 years ago during like other political stuff where it's just like, man, there's so much this, that, the other, and I'll be honest, the United States from an outside perspective looking in is very fascist, and it's culturally fascist from the left. If you can't even speak your mind and you get completely silenced, ostracized, or murdered now, and if you think you're a justified party, Like you're at the very least authoritarian, right? At the very least, but you're not fair. You're not democratic. You're not. But even like the UAE is authoritarian, but they're very respectful to their people. They're very welcoming, although they're Muslim descent. They're welcoming to other religions. They care and respect about other people. So the left isn't even authoritarian. They're definitely more fascist, and at least from my uh, now historically, typically the fascists exist on the more conservative parties, but I think we're looking through the lens of a cultural phenomenon, and I think the mob mentality is rather evident because you've now literally set up an environment where young men like myself would rather exist in another country. And you might sit there and be like, oh, good, like we made it. Finally, the white, good looking males are leaving. Yeah, but so does all that efficiency. So does all that data. So does all that jobs. So does all that value and money. So it's no sweat to me, it doesn't change my life. In fact, it's quite plush here. So, um, yeah, but less about me. It was I'm just one man, and I think what I'm trying to explain is this is a microcosm event for likely what is happening or what is to happen, and we see it in London. UK is exporting they are the lowest list of entrepreneurial like future projections. The most people are leaving London. The most millionaires, entrepreneurs, they're at the bottom of the list. Now, the United States is still important people, which is awesome, but people are definitely leaving too, and waking up to some of this stuff because it ain't like that ain't right. So, whatever my opinion's worth, um, but I will surmise, some objectivity at this point. I think if you're, someone who's quote unquote like radical, especially radical left, like you are undeniably in the wrong in history. Undeniably, like not even considerably, um, like like you're as fascist and as authoritarian as it possibly can be. Because if someone can't even challenge you and you're going to throw a fit like a child, then um, yeah, then effectively you are the equivalent of modern day Hitler. Because I bet Hitler would do the same thing. So, but none of my business, and yeah, your response won't affect me. So. Um, But for the people that exist more on the moderate ends of the spectrum and the less radicalized, Godspeed. I certainly feel for you guys, and it's sad because that's the majority of people. Majority of people are good people, and they're very well rounded and very like-minded. Actually, I think most people in moderate standard, whether you're moderate left or moderate right, you probably actually have a lot of friends on both sides, and you probably understand that. Left people still poop and piss, and right people still poop and piss, and you're all still people. But yeah, it's really sad to see. So I hope America finds God again, and I hope there's some cadence of coming together and being like, hey man, like, well, whatever happened, like we need to figure this thing out because it's getting outside looking in, it's getting weird over there. So, but. But wish you guys very well, and I hope there's some food for thought there, and yeah, Godspeed.